Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayodiriyat. Nishta prayeshu bhadresu nityam bhagavata seva bhagavati uttamashoki bhaktir vamati naishtaki. Nigama kaparurgaritam param shukam makaram mita dravi samidam pibata bhagavatam rashamayore mahora horashika. Krishna sadam bhagate dhamagini karo nashta dvishamisho paranako dunoditam. Twamapi adabhishuta vishutam vibhava samapi harena viram viruksaram prakyahiduho maharat. Tatmaram shanklesha nibanam musanti nanyataham. Abmaramastamuna grantika korvanti aitukim buddha ganavahari. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostutam Jayatam Suruto Pango Mama Mendera Mater Gati Matsavasha Param Bhavja Radha Namada Namo Sriman Rasara Sarambi Vamsivan Karsan Pinashanubka Gopinata Sri Sanam Divyad Brindaranya Kavadrumada Srimad Ratnagata Shima Shana So Shri Radha Shida Govindadeva Prasadabhi Seva Manushmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaham Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudhajam Mangalam Bhanidikaksham Mangalayatano Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dimahi Tano Vishnu Pachodhyate Om Mahadevi Vidmahi Vishnu Padnicha Dimahi Tano Lakshmi Pachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Tere Shri Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Dayadadem Tapti Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vindavaneshware Vishavanasute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Rama 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 Hari Hari. Welcome Motivational Monday on Zoom with Rob and on Facebook Live with Jean, Brent, Shali, John, and Carmen. Thanks for joining us. Brent, I assume you're back from Los Angeles and a wonderful experience yesterday. The Los Angeles Rath Yatra has been parlayed into an entire weekend where the festival itself on Venice Beach takes place on Sunday, as it always has. But starting Friday night, many of the world's top kirtan leaders, including Agni Dev Das, arrive in Los Angeles, and they have essentially a kirtan festival, which I believe starts Friday night, goes throughout Saturday, and then continues during the parade. On Sunday, the chariots leave the Civic Center in Santa Monica around 11 or so and arrive at the Venice Pavilion around 12:30. And then there's a menu of stage programs, including B.G. Prakash and others, that goes throughout the afternoon. This year was the 48th enactment of the Festival of the Chariots on Venice Beach, and our own Brent went there, as well as Joshua. I assume he was there. We didn't see him yesterday on Sunday. I hope everyone had a good time. We've got a festive virtual background here, not only in acknowledgement of yesterday's Rath Yatra in Venice Beach, but also next week there will be a festival in New Paltz, New York, which is about 2.5 hours away from New York City itself. It's very near to a large devotee community there. So yours truly will be the hip hop MC. Tulsi will be one of the performers. Malini, of course, is the organizer. She's been with our own Festival of Colors for over 10 years, and she decided that she would organize a festival on her own. So we're going there to support her. Vrindavan Chandra will be leading the kirtan. Janardhan, the butter thief, will be there, as well as other performers whose I can't think of right at the moment. So that'll be next weekend. I'll be absent Friday, Saturday, and then back late night flight. I won't get in until like 2 a.m. Monday. So doubtful whether I'll give this class next Monday. A lot of festivals at the present moment in time. And we also are talking about Gajendra, who in the midst of a non-transcendental festival got his leg clamped upon by a crocodile and was put into a life or death situation. That life-death situation triggered his remembrance of devotional service having been performed in a previous lifetime. as King Indraduma, and in fact catalyzes his awakening of consciousness and sends him back to home, back to Godhead. And in this discussion, we quoted the very second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein it says all types of cheating religion are kicked out. There are other Vedic literatures, voluminous in quantity, all of whom explain to the readers how to improve their position in this material world, how to get a leg up on others. The whole system of material adjustment is based on envy and competition. Without a sense of God consciousness, without the realization that God is the enjoyer, God is the proprietor, God is the owner, and God is everyone's best friend, you cannot but place yourself as the number one priority. And doing that, put yourself in a position of competition with all other living beings. And that competition is based on something called envy. The Srimad Bhagavatam does not cater to the envious, self-centered desires of the non-God conscious. Once you've finished all that, you've graduated beyond I-ness, and you want to get to Godness, you want to get to Krishna consciousness, then the Srimad Bhagavatam is tailor-made for Nimatsara Satam. Satam means those who are not going to settle for anything less than the absolute truth. They're not going to loiter. They're not going to muck around in this material world. They realize that I am spirit. I really, in the end, have nothing to do with this temporary world of matter. And I'm going to finish up my sojourn here. I should not have come here in the first place, but having come here, I'm going to wind everything up and go back home, back to God. So those who have no possessions, nor do they have aspirations for possession, nor are they envious of other living beings. They're finished with their rat race. They've opted out of it. They've stepped off of the Ferris wheel of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. It is to those people that the Srimad Bhagavatam addresses itself. Those who are non-envious, realizing that whatever your needs are, they can never be satisfied in the material world. They can never be satisfied by rising to the highest planet in this material world or going down to the lowest planet. And the inhabitants of the highest planets are called Lokapals, or demigods, like Varuna, like Indra, like Kuvera, like Vayu, like Lord Brahma. They themselves, their positions are not permanent. Their positions are not fixed. At the end of their lifetimes, they are going to sink back down to an earthly existence. And so therefore, why should I follow in the footsteps of the demigods? They're in the same soup that I'm in. And why should I spend my valuable time and energy worshiping the demigods for temporary benedictions? So those who have come to Krishna consciousness realize that in Krishna, everything is taken care of. Everything is fulfilled. Yata turo mulana sechanam tatskanda bhujopashakaham. Just like by watering the root of the tree, every other part of the tree is nourished. The flower, the leaves, the twigs, the branches, everything is nourished by the one act of watering the root of the tree. Or by putting food into the stomach, the whole body gets freedom from weakness, freedom from misery, gets strength, encouragement, and vigor. By the one activity of serving Krishna, I needn't divert myself to anything else. When Dhruva Maharaj went to his mother complaining about the unfair situation, that his father had prevented him from getting up on his lap, and by projection, Dhruva could understand that now he was being passed over as a legitimate heir to his father's throne in favor of his younger son, his stepbrother, by a younger wife of the king. So Dhruva Maharaj, naturally, as a 5-year-old boy, what is a 5-year-old boy when he's doing when he's been unfairly treated? He goes to his father, but being shut out, not being denied access to his father, the next thing Dhruva does is go to his mother. So he goes to his mother and he complains to his mother. He says, I am being denied the love of my father. And his mother gives him the best possible advice. Her advice starts him off on the journey by which he's going back to home, back to Godhead. And she says, don't worry about being denied your Father's love in this one lifetime. Use your time, use your energy, not in resentment, not in bitterness, not in trying to pay back your Father for his rebuff, but use your time to search out Lord Vishnu. He is your eternal Father, and he can give you the love of millions and millions of fathers. Anybody who has the favor, the approval, who has reawakened their connection with God is never going to complain about their natural father or mother abusing them or not being there for them or neglecting them. Sri Krishna is Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitam Purusham Sasaram Adi Dev Majambadu, the supreme source of everything, from whom all fathers and all mothers and all species of life come, who himself is the ultimate shelter. If your father won't let you up on his lap, don't worry. Krishna will never deny you. He is your friend. He not only does he not reject you, but when you reject him, he still accompanies you in the region of the heart throughout your many, many, many incarnations. When was the last time we had a lifetime where we dedicated our assets to God? Take my life, Lord, and let it be consecrated to thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands, let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Take my lips and let them sing always only for my King. Take my mouth and let it be filled with messages from thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite, but I withhold. Take my intellect, use every power thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it thine, it shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is thine own, it shall be thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at thy feet as treasure store. Take myself, and I will be ever only all for thee. Now, how long has it been since we bought into that state of mind, that level of consciousness? We are far, far from that, sad to say. And yet Krishna, though we've rejected him, he never rejected us. In our enviousness of God, in spite of our enviousness of God, Krishna stuck with us closer than a brother. Chaitaragnam chapi mambidi. We are alive by virtue of a part of Krishna which resides within our heart. It's a tiny spark of God called the Jiva soul. But alongside of the Jiva soul in each individual body is the supreme soul, the Paramatma, who is seated as an overseer, a proprietor, and a permitter, as well as a witness. And he is simply poised there for that moment that we turn to him. And when we turn to him, and when we open up to him, then he steps in. He activates himself in our lives. Last Sunday at the feast, we had some visitors, a young man with a lot of tattoos, even on his face, and two ladies. They've been coming for quite some time. I really haven't had a chance to get beyond any superficialities after the RT and the talk. People come down and they sit at tables. They've served themselves at the buffet and then they sit at tables. And I usually go around to each table, ask if the food's okay, if they have any questions and so on. So I was making my rounds and I came to their table and they were particularly effusive last night. They were, I said, do you have any questions? And they said, yes, we have a question. I said, oh, good. I said, you know us well enough to know that Hare Krishna is like nothing better than questions. So they said, almost in unison, we have the science of self-realization and we're all reading it. We're passing around round robin. What's the next several books we should get? I said, well, that's a pretty good question. So I recommended the Gita and they expressed an interest in starting to cook and offer their food at home. And I recommended a cookbook. And so they all told me that coming to the temple has changed their lives. They might have had a rough life. That would be one's guess. They've had some hard years. And yet they glowed. They glowed. You could see them in the process of transformation. And I said to them, I said, that's what happens. All we have to do is let Krishna in. That's all we have to do. We've shut him out for so long. Krishna's not going to force himself on us. He's not going to smash down the door and slam our head on the kitchen table with our arm twisted behind our back and force us to surrender to him. And another thing I said is the door to our heart opens from the inside. It opens, it's made in such a way that unless we open it from the inside, Krishna is not going to smash it down from the outside. So I said, this is the miracle. This is the wonderful thing. That as soon as we begin to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna comes in and we practically experience his presence in our lives. He's always been there, but we've shut him out. When you open the door, and every one of those three people was nodding in total agreement with me. It's such a simple thing, and yet people are unwilling to go so far as to chant, to invest 5 minutes a day in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. These three young people would tell you they've done it. They've done it and they've seen the results, and the verdict is in. Lives have been changed. So that's what happens. As soon as you begin to chant Hare Krishna, the envious nature that put us here in this material world in the first place becomes removed. You see that we have no one of whom to be envious, least of all the Supreme Personality of God. It's to be assumed that we left the spiritual world because we were envious at why should he get all the attention? Why should he have all the good looks? Why should he have all the devotees? Why should everyone be singing his praises? We wanted some of that for ourselves. That's when our paths diverged, and that's when our life got inauspicious. We want to turn all that around, set aside the envy, and begin inviting the Lord into your heart, or inviting the Lord to be active once again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As I said, mostly the Vedic literatures deal with 4 subject matters: Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha. Dharma means righteousness, how to make a living in a righteous way without incurring negative karma that you're going to experience in the future. So being happy now and being happy in the future, not sowing the wrong seeds now, sowing the right seeds now, so that you earn an honest living now, you get a fair wage for a fair amount of work, and there's no negative blowback in the future. That's Dharma. Then Karma. Kama means sense gratification. Every living being comes into this mature world to gratify their senses. And then Artha, in order to gratify one's senses, one needs money, one needs wealth. And then finally, Dharma, Artha, Karma, Moksha, and finally, liberation from repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. One should not be unaware, one should not become oblivious of the fact that we are not part of this material world. We are a spiritual soul. And so in this way, the Bhagavatam starts, and it rejects the premises of all the Vedic literatures up to that point, which were based on the 4 adjustments, the 4 improvements in material life: Dharma, Artha, Kama, religious, righteousness, sense gratification, economic development, and ultimately liberation. And when you are motivated to improve your material situation, feeling envy to other living beings, what it does is it binds you up head and foot by what's called the gunas, the 3 modes of material natures, as well as the 3-fold miseries of material life. Our false ego, as soon as it gets an attachment, as soon as it gets bound up in the knot of false ego, then we become subject to miseries due to material nature, like hurricanes, excessive heat, Lord knows. We've had excessive heat and excessive wind here recently, not probably to the extent that other parts of America, the world have, but we have had some pretty vigorous windstorms here in the last couple of weeks. And we've had our share of 100-degree temperatures, although we've had some cool days as well. The heat has not been unrelenting, but we've experienced wind, the element of wind, we fix the element of fire to an extreme degree here, as most of the other world. And then water, if you live in a coastal area, there's hurricanes, there's tidal waves. So that is our miseries due to material nature. Then there are miseries due to other living beings. You know, I like the summer. I like the warm weather. I look forward to it throughout the winter. But one thing that the warm weather brings with it, and I realized that, is, you know, when warm weather comes and the cold weather passes, there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth of weeds on our property, thistles and goat heads. And there's a lot of flies. There's a lot of mosquitoes that come. And so one of the complexities that arise with the warm weather, we welcome the warm weather after the long winter. But at the same time, then we're almost daily, we're faced with the choice to kill or not to kill. And we want a restaurant. And, you know, we're on a farm also with animals and peacocks and so on and so forth. And so every time the door opens, there are flies that come in. But what are we going to do? Are we going to sit there and watch the diners, you know, going like this while they're eating the meal? Or are we going to think about killing the flies with fly strips and a fly swatter? We have cookouts sometimes on our patio, or we grill veggie burgers and chant Hare Krishna. And then towards the evening, you start feeling on your bare legs the bites of mosquitoes. So are you going to slap the mosquitoes, or are you going to wake up in the morning with itchy welts? One devotee told me, and Bhakti Marg Swami has walked across Canada 3 times. He's walked across America. He's walked in Europe. So someone asked Bhakti Marg Swami, is it sinful to swat a mosquito? And Bhakti Marg Swami said, absolutely not. But anyway, you know, we have these miseries inflicted by other living beings, flies and mosquitoes, and even amongst the human society, envious people. These are miseries. The second category of miseries are those from other living beings. And then the third category from our own body and from our own mind. Sometimes we wake up unaccountably depressed and down on things. We're experiencing the blahs. Depression itself, from a clinical sense, is at epidemic proportions in America and throughout the world. So as soon as we give way, surrender ourselves to envy and competition amongst other living beings, then the price we pay for that is that we become afflicted by the miseries due to body and mind, as well as other living beings and material nature. However, it is said that the Srimad Bhagavatam, as it uproots envy, as it replaces envy for bhakti, nirmatsararam satam, as it replaces purity for competitive spirit, envy, the urge to downplay others' achievements rather than to celebrate them, it also uproots the threefold miseries. And the Bhagavatam stands unique. It stands separate from all other Vedic literatures because it does not encourage any living beings to improve their situation in this material world. In fact, the word for envy, nirmatsara, the word for envy, it's pointed out, is very close to the Sanskrit word for fish. Envy, the word for envy and the word for fish are very similar. So there's something fishy about envy, something off-putting, something repugnant and repulsive. And it's true. The consciousness of an envious person emits a negative consciousness, a negative so-called fragrance. In the ocean, the big fish feel insecure about the little fish. So before the little fish can get big and become a challenge to the big fish generally eat the little fish. They don't want to give the little fish a chance to become big like them and thereby compete for the resources. The mentality of the spiritualist, mentality of the Krishna conscious person, is a mentality of abundance. There's plenty for everyone to go around. God will not bankrupt himself. He has unlimited resources. He lives in a transcendental world, which is created a touchstone that anything can be transformed into something valuable. From something basic can become very valuable. So the mentality of the spiritualist is one of abundance. The spiritualist assists others to grow, to prosper, celebrates their success, sees their success as one's own success. And ultimately, it's not about who gets the best position in this material world. Spirituals will gladly take the more humble position. Spirituals will gladly allow others to supersede them, to have more influence, more power, if that's the arrangement of the Lord, because the goal of the spiritualist is not to have a improved condition within the prison houses of the material world, but to comport oneself in such an exemplary way that at the end of this life, one needn't take another material body and go back to home, back to God. So whatever the spiritualist does, it is for God. It is to honor God and to elevate oneself back into one's natural position. So one celebrates the success of others. One is not worried or bothered by others getting up to one's own level. In fact, one will assist as best one can. Consider the example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We've several times mentioned this story because it's so helpful. Lord Chaitanya was being hosted by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had looked forward for months to the Lord coming to his house. He had repeatedly issued an invitation to the Lord. And finally, one day, the Lord said, I'll come to your house in such and such an afternoon for lunch. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was thrilled. He made such a lunch for the Lord. And the Lord was sitting there honoring Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, honoring the bhakti of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya by eating each and every offering that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was presenting before him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was giving Lord Chaitanya, it's true, enough food for 10 men. And Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. He doesn't need any food at all, for that matter. The reason that he accepts the food is to honor the service of his devotees. Lord Chaitanya was right in the middle of consuming the lunch, honoring his devotee. Sarvabhauma was running back and forth between himself and the kitchen, bringing hot chapatis and chutneys and more dal, filling everything back up. And who should appear but his son-in-law, Amoga. And Amoga immediately showed his envy by saying, how is this man a sannyasi? How is this person in the renounced order of life? He's an imposter. Sannyasis minimize their material needs. They minimize their sense gratification. Instead of minimizing, this fellow is eating what 10 people could eat. Having said that, he saw his father-in-law, Sarvabhauma picked up the nearest rolling pin he could find, and he was going to kill his son-in-law. He said, how did you get in here? And he started chasing him. The two of them split. They went down the road in a cloud of dust. And Lord Chaitanya started holding his sides, and he thought that was so funny. But what happened to Amoga Leela is he got leprosy that very night. Following day, he was on his deathbed, and the word came to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya rushed there, and he touched Amoga Leela. Sarvabhauma wanted his son-in-law to die. He wanted his son-in-law to die. And when Lord Chaitanya touched Amoga, he made him whole. His disease was cured. And not only was he cured of the physical disease of leprosy, but by the touch of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all envy left his heart. He became a pure devotee on the spot. And Sarvabhauma Acharya said, why did you do this, Lord? He was undeserving of this benediction. And of course, we don't deserve mercy. We don't deserve grace. That's the whole point. It's nothing that we earn. We get it because of the magnanimity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All we have to do is present ourselves before him in a helpless state, just like Gajendra was reduced to a state of helplessness. And in that mood, he asked the Lord to come in. Similarly, Amoga was stricken with a life-threatening disease and relegated to his bed with all kinds of sores and lesions all over his body. And when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came before him, In helplessness, he gazed upon the transcendental form of the Lord. So the Lord touched him. Just as the Lord responded immediately to Gajendra's cry of helplessness, the Lord also responded to Amoga's helpless gazing upon the form of the Lord. And in answer to Sarvabhauma Jadacharya's question, why did you redeem this man? He's undeserving of it. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Grihe Dasi Dasi Yokaka, because you are my pure devotee. Anything, any servant in your house, any animal in your house, any dog, any cat, any insect, any lizard that lives in your house, they are all special to me. They are all dear to me. What to speak of your son-in-law? Of course, the moral of the story is that when you let Lord Chaitanya in your heart, when you open your heart to Krishna, the first thing he does is he goes about the business of ridding you of your envy. It is the envy which brought us this material world. It is envy which we must kick out from the region of our heart. We need to put up a no vacancy sign. We need to evict envy from within our heart. The Lord is within the hearts of all living beings, but because of envy of the Lord and envy of each other, we are always playing hide and seek with the Lord. We are seeking the Lord, but without bhakti and with envy. We imagine if there's a God, I want to see him. Imagine the servant demanding that the master present himself at the beck and call of the servant, at the snap of the finger. It's not how it works. The servant doesn't get to snap his finger and call the master like you'd call a dog. The master calls the servant. The master calls the dog. It's not the other way around. There is an exception, however. For you, Tam Shabiyodine Jirtapadapidam, Autamapidav Yada Chaitanya Shadarshani. Narada Muni said that after becoming a pure devotee, after setting aside my envy, what is that verse? Oh gosh. Namami Nantasha Hatatra Goyani Bridani Kachan Gampariatam Shistram Karim Predikshan Nirmatsano Satam. Narada Muni says, after having lost my father and lost my mother, been orphaned at the age of 5, and cast out into the world with no one to protect me, I began to chant Namami Anantasya, the unlimited names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, with the names of the Lord as my only protection, as my only shelter, I began to wander through forests, mountains, valleys, abroad, without anybody bringing me to harm. And the reason that I was not at odds with any animals or any robbers or any envious beings was because I had no envy within my heart. People recognize me as a transcendentalist, not one who is in the game to preempt them, to backstab them, to usurp their position. I wandered throughout the whole world, humble and non-envious, and as such, he had the full protection of the Lord. Unfortunately, because of envy, we don't see the Lord who is everywhere present. The Lord is completely obvious for those who are cured of the disease of envy, and completely hidden for those who are covered with envy. Kamsa wanted to remove Krishna as a threat. Kamsa was envious of Krishna because it was predicted that the 8th son of his sister Devaki would kill him. So immediately, Kamsa had this monumental envy of Krishna, that Krishna was the thorn in his side. Krishna was the greatest threat to his living a long life of extreme sense gratification. So he was always envious of Krishna, and he wanted to find Krishna, but he couldn't find Krishna because Krishna hides himself from the envious. You can search after Krishna, you can play hide and seek with Krishna throughout all the universes and throughout all the species of life. But Krishna reserves the right of revealing himself to whomsoever he wants. And why should he reveal himself to the envious?
he does reveal himself to the devotees. Narada Muni, getting back to him, I got a little sidetracked there. He said, Prayanto Shabiryani Tirtapada Priyasharam. The same Lord that people travel thousands and thousands of miles to intersect or connect with by going on pilgrimage. They go 1,000 miles. They go to a holy place where the Lord enacted his pastimes. They associate with the devotees. They visit the temples. They take the dust on the heads of their feet. They go to all this trouble to connect with the Lord at places of pilgrimage. And Narada Muni says, after removing envy from my heart, I don't have to go to any trouble to go to the Lord. The Lord goes to trouble to come to me. He says, all I have to do is call the Lord by chanting his holy names, and he immediately comes. The Lord doesn't come to anybody with envy in their hearts. But without envy in your heart, the Lord does come almost as if called like a dog. The devotee identifies him or herself as the dog of Krishna. We have these dog collars, these beads around our necks. And once when Prabhupada was asked, what's the purpose of those beads around your neck? Prabhupada said, it's my dog collar. I am the dog of Krishna. But Krishna comes when his pure devotee chants his holy names, just like a dog comes when the master calls. So the master of Shiva, the master of Brahma, the master of Vishnu, the master of Lakshmi, the master of Ganesh and Vayu and Varuna, master of all the demigods, he comes calling when those whose hearts are free from envy chant his holy names. Otherwise, the whole world is looking for God in vain. They'll look for thousands of births, thousands of years, and thousands of lifetimes, on thousands of planets, and thousands of incarnations, and they'll never get a hint of the Lord. And that was the case with Kamsa. He wanted to get Krishna out of his hiding place. He knew that Krishna was in the hearts of all living entities. So he characterized that as hiding, that Krishna is afraid of me, so he's hiding. So in order to some or other provoke Krishna to come out, to get Krishna to come out, Kamsa was advised by his followers to attack all the symptoms, all the manifestations of God in the world. The Vipragavacha Vedashta, Vipagavacha Tapasacham, Samodamo, Shadaya Dajicharam, Shadaya Avi Chikitsaram. His advisors told Kamsa that God exists with the cows. He exists with the Brahmins. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Tataya. The two most favorite entities in this world of Krishna are the Brahmins, the holy men, and the cows. He exists in tapasya, wherever there are people doing austerities, wherever there are people doing sacrifices, the Lord is there. Wherever there are faithful, honest people of high character, Shadaya Daya Chikitsatam, whether people performing religious pious activities, Kratavashapi Harutanam. He was advised by his demoniac counselors that if you attack the Lord, if you attack the manifestations of God in those forms of piety, righteous people of faith, the cows, the Brahmins, you will be cutting off the head of Vishnu. You will be emasculating Vishnu. You'll be removing the power of Vishnu to do anything. You can't find Vishnu. He's afraid of you. He's hiding the hearts of living beings. But Vishnu's instruments, Vishnu's manifestations within this world are through these various things. So if you destroy them, you'll destroy Vishnu. It'll be like cutting off the arms. You may not be able to strike an arrow in the heart because Vishnu is invisible, but you can cut off his arms and his head by persecuting the Brahmins, the cows, go to wherever there are ascetics, to destroy all the sacrifices, harass people of faith, and so on and so forth. This was their misguided strategy to disempower Kamsa's nemesis, Vishnu. And it never works. Whatever you do to others, it will not ultimately affect Vishnu. When they had the partition of India in 1948, there was a lot of killing between Hindus and Muslims. Muslims would kill some Hindus and they would send them on the train to Delhi. There would be a trainload of dead Hindus that the Muslims killed on the way from Pakistan to India. And then the Indians, mainly the Sikhs, who are very militant, they would kill Muslims and send a trainload of Muslims to Lahore. So these trains were arriving in Delhi, with dead bodies of Hindus. And then the answer would be another train would be sent to Lahore, Pakistan, with dead bodies of Muslims. But the interesting thing is that once a Hindu is dead, once a Muslim's dead, you can't tell who was Hindu, who was Muslim. A Hindu kills a Muslim because of envy, a Muslim kills a Hindu because of envy. But once they're dead and the soul has left that body, neither the individual soul, part and parcel of God, nor the Lord are any longer residing within that body. You haven't killed either one. You haven't affected either one, because neither originates with matter, neither depends upon matter for their ongoing existence. So you haven't done anything to take away the power of God. All you've done is covered yourself with heaps and heaps of sinful activities. Bottom line is that Krishna is the remote cause. He's not the immediate cause. A Hindu may identify a Muslim as the immediate cause, and a Muslim may identify a Hindu as the immediate cause. But neither one is the real cause. The first cause, the ultimate cause, is Krishna. That whatever happens to us is orchestrated by Krishna, though we may or may not be able to see it. We will see it if we're a devotee. So Gaharsha Vayadoshta Loba Maya Shamamnitam. Devotees see everything is enacted by Krishna, and non-devotees cannot see things enacted by the remote cause. They only identify and react to the immediate cause. The example is given that a cat, if you dangle a paper controlled by a string, and you dangle that in front of the cat will think of this string as a mouse. The cat will not identify the string. The cat will not identify you as the manipulator of the mouse through the string. The cat will play for hours with this piece of paper, suspending its belief that it's anything other than a mouse. A human being will walk into the room and they'll see you leading on the cat with the paper tied to the string, and they'll not fall for that trick. They'll immediately look at the mouse, they'll look at you, they'll look at the string, and they'll laugh. They say, I'll never fall for that trick. I'll never fall for this paper mouse, when I clearly can see the person who is controlling it. Similarly, devotees never fall for the provocations of envious people within this material world. They never allow themselves to be baited into the false struggle for existence, survival of the fittest within this material world, because they clearly see that behind all phenomenons is the hand of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So all glories to the devotees, all glories to the unique vision of the devotees, and our best hope is that everyone eventually comes to the point of these three young people at the Sunday feast who enthusiastically, exuberantly, and bright-facedly stated to me yesterday evening that since we've started chanting Hare Krishna and opened our hearts to the non-envious reception of Krishna, our lives have changed for the better in multiple ways. That's what we wish for everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to look forward to Rob's comments, and if anybody has a pithy comment on Facebook, also we've had some good stuff from Shukshma. We've had a couple of good things from Carmen. So there is some talent there. and see what the comments are. Jean gives us a heart, gives us a pranams and some musical notes. Brett, Haribo, look forward to your wrap up. You're telling us all the things that you experienced over the weekend at the Los Angeles Rath Yatra. Shali, Hari Krishna, come if you can. I know it's a long drive from Ephraim to Salt Lake City, but on Tuesday night we'll have Kirtan with Agni Dev. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll be in touch. John Malik, Hari Krishna. Carmen wishes Hari Krishna happy Monday. And apparently you're from LA and you attended the Rath Yatra at Venice Beach, and Carmen says it was incredible. There are many pictures posted on Facebook. It seems evident that that was in fact true. Govinda Dev says Hari Krishna, happy Motivational Monday. Sundari Priya, Hari Krishna, she and her husband are receiving Agni and Krishna Prastaya at the airport, presumably, and hosting them yesterday, so they don't have to drive all the way down to Spanish Fork and back and then back again. They'll give them lunch at their home, and then we'll have the kirtan on Tuesday night, tomorrow night, from 6:30, 8:30 with Agni Dev and Prasadam. Afterwards, everyone's invited. Okay, we do have a little phrase here, a little takeaway from Carmen. Attachment leads to rejecting, chanting leads to accepting. Very nice. Very succinctly stated. John Malik says material entanglement means problem after problem after problem, never ending. The real problem is the envy in our heart, and our problems will not be solved until we solve the problem of envy. Divya Joshi says Hari Krishna. And again, another phrase, empty your heart of envy and the eternal entity enters. What do you think about that, Rob? Empty your heart of envy and the eternal entity enters. Kind of has a nice little ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little alliteration.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. And then finally, we have by Bobby with some nice emojis here. So let's turn it over to the Grand Master, Rob, to wrap everything up on this Motivational Monday.
I'm no master and I'm certainly not grand, but I do my best. All right. If you want godness, let go of I-ness.
Mm-hmm.
What you deserve is to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Turn to him and let him in.
Mm-hmm.
Lose the envy, instead be friendly.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that.
Krishna is already in the heart. We just need to do our part.
Nice.
If you're pure, if you are sincere, then the Lord will appear.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
That's all I've got today.
A lot of wealth, a lot of richness coming back to us. We try and trigger your realizations, and we're appreciative for the reciprocation coming back to us with those. Well, thank you very much. That's it for Motivational Monday. We'll be back tomorrow with more on this nectarine subject matter of Gajendra Moksha, the liberation of the elephant Gajendra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.